The morning the war began, I was lounging on my porch, sipping dark roast from my world's okayest grandpa mug, watching my cat, Daisy, survey the neighborhood from her perch on the railing. Then I saw her Lydia Marsh, storming down the sidewalk like she was spearheading a military operation, armed with a clipboard, a fanny pack, and the smug certainty of a woman who once fined me $50 for my wind chimes being too whimsical. My stomach twisted. That glint in her eyes meant trouble was brewing, and I'd seen it before. I'd lived in Willow Grove for 33 years, raised my kids here, retired here, tended my roses, and mowed my lawn with care. But nothing in all those years had tested my patience like Lydia Marsh and her iron grip on the HOA. She'd turned our quiet community into a maze of rules pool float bans, grass height checks, mailbox audits, and I was her favorite target. Why? Because I was the last holdout, the one who dared say, "No, Lydia, I'll grill in my driveway if I want to." But I didn't know she was about to cross a line so personal, so outrageous, it would spark the wildest, most legendary act of rebellion this town had ever seen. She didn't just take my pool key. She took my peace, my morning swims, my sanctuary. So, I did what any slightly unhinged 68-year-old with a sense of justice would do: filled the pool with 10,000 piranhas. It all started with that one walk. Lydia strutted toward the community pool like she owned it, which, in her mind, she did. 20 minutes later, I arrived to find the gate locked. Strange. I was one of the original homeowners, grandfathered into unrestricted pool access before Lydia's aquatic conduct rules took over. I checked my shorts pocket empty. My bag nothing. My towel gone. Then, hanging inside the fence, taunting me like a metallic middle finger, was my key, clipped to Lydia's monstrous clipboard with a neon tag labeled "Suspended." Daisy meowed, sensing the injustice. My morning swims were sacred 10 laps, quiet thoughts, calm water. Gone. I knew who was behind it. I marched to Lydia's house, 5 doors down, her yard so pristine it begged for a handful of dirt out of spite. Plastic flamingos, color-coded gnomes, curb numbers painted to match her begonias. I rang the bell 3 times. She opened the door in her navy HOA shirt. "Respect the rules or leave the pool." Her smile stretched tight. "Well, Walter, what can I do for you?" she chirped. "You stole my pool key, Lydia," I said. "I reclaimed it," she replied, unfazed. "You violated HOA Regulation 7B, subsection 12.3. I blinked. "What the hell is subsection 12.3? She whipped out a laminated sheet. Of course it was laminated. No personal furniture may be left unattended in shared spaces for more than 13 minutes. Your lounge chair was by the pool for 22, Walter. That's nearly a double violation." I laughed, short and sharp. "Lydia, I set my chair down to use the restroom, and you treat me like a criminal." Her eyes narrowed. "The rules are for everyone." "No," I said. "They're for everyone else. You weaponize them." She squinted like I was a weed in her garden. "If you want your privileges back, attend the next compliance hearing." "A hearing? For a chair?" She smiled, all teeth, no warmth. "We have standards." Something snapped inside me. It wasn't just the chair or the pull, it was every absurd rule she'd enforced. Bans on garden spinners, Halloween curfews, noise complaints over a kid's laughter topping 65 decibels. Lydia didn't want order, she wanted control. "Fine," I said, turning away. "But this is war." She laughed, nervous now. "Oh, Walter, you're adorable." As I walked off, I muttered, "Hope the fish like chlorine." She didn't get it. No one did. But I wasn't fighting with hearings or letters. I was fighting with chaos. Back home, my friend Tom waited on the porch with 2 diet sodas and a look that said, "What now?" I told him everything: the key, the chair, the laminated nonsense. He listened, cracked his soda, and asked, "What's the plan?" "I'm filling the pool with piranhas," I said. He stared, then leaned back, grinning. Serious as a heart attack. Dead serious. He looked skyward. "Well, damn. Let's do it." And so, Operation Snapback was born. Lydia ruled by rules. I ruled by stories. And I was about to give Willow Grove one they'd never forget. Tom showed up the next morning with a notebook, duct tape, and a grin that meant he was all in. That's the thing about old friends: say you're filling a pool with piranhas, and most would call a doctor. Tom brought diagrams. We sat at my kitchen table, coffee steaming, Daisy watching like we were planning a heist. We needed intel not just on Piranhas, but on Lydia's schedule, her pool inspections, her HOA spies. Oh, she had spies dog walkers circling houses with slightly tall shrubs. Tom called them the Lydia net. While he tracked her movements, I dove into the world of carnivorous fish. The internet was wild videos of piranhas shredding chicken like paper, warnings about catastrophic consequences in open water. I wasn't out to hurt anyone, just to make a point. A dramatic, toothy point. Red-bellied piranhas were the stars of horror stories, aggressive, quick, with sharp teeth. Perfect. Problem was, you couldn't stroll into a pet store for aquatic nightmares. So, we drove 2 hours to a shady exotic pet shop run by a guy named Vince, who smelled like shrimp and had a tarantula named Cupcake. When I mentioned piranhas, his eyes lit up like he'd been waiting for this his whole life. We didn't buy the fish that day, too reckless. We needed a plan, a place to stash them. Vince answered our questions. Transport, food, chlorine tolerance. They'll die eventually in chlorine, he said, but they'll last a few hours. Long enough to make a splash. Tom scribbled notes like we were planning a CIA op. Back in Willow Grove, Lydia was tightening her grip. New signs at the pool screamed. No entry without HOA approval in red. A laminated FAQ listed offenses like excessive splashing and loud sunscreen application. Neighbors were fed up. My neighbor Clara, a widow who knitted by the pool, came to me in tears after Lydia scolded her for an unauthorized crochet hook. It wasn't just about me anymore. I dropped hints at the pool fish tacos labeled, inspired by what's coming. Cryptic comments like, nature restores balance. Whispers spread. Something was brewing. Pool access was tricky. Lydia had changed the locks, but Tom had an old key from his HOA board days. A detail she'd overlooked. We waited for a rainy night, fewer eyes out. Under thunder and clouds, we moved. Tom kept watch while I pried open the maintenance panel, checked the water intake, and dropped the temperature gauge into the deep end. Everything was set. We did a dry run of fish, just gear testing containers, checking for leaks, timing our escape over the back fence. We treated it like a bank job, but with teeth. Then Lydia threw a wrench. An emergency HOA inspection, same day as our plan. In my garage, surrounded by hoses and a grumpy Daisy, we debated delaying. But I was done retreating. This wasn't revenge, it was about ending her reign. We moved the plan up a day, riskier, but doable. We called Vince, arranged the pickup, and by dawn, dozens of piranhas gurgled in sealed containers in Tom's truck. We parked 2 blocks away, carried them through alleys like spies. At the pool, we poured them into the deep end. Silence, then a faint churn. You couldn't see them, but they were there. I whispered, swim free, my bitey friends, and we vanished. The trap was set. The next morning, Willow Grove woke to birds, sprinklers, and a hum of chaos. Lydia patrolled, clipboard in hand, visor perched like a crown, unaware her empire was crumbling. Tom and I peeked through my blinds like kids watching a prank unfold. The piranhas had slipped in before dawn, and Vince promised a few hours of moderate aquatic menace. It was enough. The inspection began at 9 o'clock. Lydia arrived with 2 board members, Martha, who once sobbed over unapproved sunflowers, and Steve, who looked like he hated his life. In matching polos, they looked like knockoff Ghostbusters, hunting rule breakers. Lydia unlocked the gate, scanning for rogue pool noodles or unsanctioned sandals. All seemed normal. Martha snapped photos of chairs. Steve scribbled, probably his resignation. Then Lydia paused by the water, tilting her head. Small ripples. She squinted, stepped closer, leaned in. A piranha broke the surface, flashing teeth, slapping its tail. Lydia shrieked, stumbling back, waving her clipboard like a sword, yelling about wildlife violations. Martha dropped her phone into the pool. Steve froze, notepad raised like a shield. Neighbors gathered. Mr. Thompson in his robe, Mrs. Chun with binoculars, Clara on her scooter with popcorn. Drama the HOA couldn't suppress played out live. Lydia melted down, demanding animal control, accusing teens of marine crimes, ranting about water contamination. Then, in a moment that went viral on TikTok, she stood at the pool's edge and shouted, "As HOA president, I command you to vacate these premises." Silence. A piranha leaped, splashing her visor into the water. The crowd gasped. Someone clapped. I stepped onto my lawn, clapping slowly, movie style. Heads turned. Lydia's eyes locked on mine, blazing. I smiled, calm and satisfied. She stormed over, soaked from nearly falling in, flailing her clipboard. "You did this," she shrieked. "Did what?" I asked. "Exposed the dangers of unchecked HOA power?" "Guilty. You filled the pool with man-eating monsters." "Fish," I corrected. "And they've got better manners than some." Laughter erupted. Clara nearly spilled her popcorn. Steve cracked a smile. Lydia realized the tide had turned. People weren't scared, they were entertained, relieved. Her era was crumbling. She sputtered about lawsuits, but the crowd grew, phones out, hashtags forming. Animal control arrived, unimpressed. I told an officer the fish were only dangerous if you're a bully with a god complex. He fist-bumped me. By noon, Vince relocated the piranhas to an aquatic facility, thrilled to have a story to match his tarantula. Lydia's authority shattered, her visor lost to poetic justice. She stomped home, defeated. The pool closed for the day, but no one cared. The piranha uprising became legend, whispered in backyards, rewatched at dinner tables. Tom and I sat on my porch that evening, Daisy purring between us. "Went better than expected," he said, sipping beer. "Sometimes you fight HOA fire with fish," I replied. We clinked bottles as the sun set, the pool calm, empty, legendary. The neighborhood buzzed next morning. Teens dubbed it the splashing. Lawn chairs lined the pool fence like a monument. Someone chalked a fish mural on the sidewalk. They swam so we could be free. Lydia vanished, blinds drawn, mailbox untouched. Rumor said she had a meltdown when the HOA board refused to ban aquatic life. For the first time in a decade, no passive-aggressive HOA emails arrived. Heavenly. But Lydia wasn't done. 2 days later, a flyer announced a special HOA meeting to address vandalism, anarchy, and fish-based terrorism. She was coming for me. Tom and I prepared not with lawyers, but with neighbors' stories. Fines for Halloween cobwebs, bans on yoga for being suggestive. A kid's lemonade stand reported as unlicensed. People were ready to speak. The fish had broken her spell. The clubhouse was packed that evening, chairs overflowing. Lydia entered in black, like she was at her own funeral, her smile twitching. She read a statement about biological aggression and public safety, claiming the bylaws allowed expulsion. Her voice cracked on endangered. When she finished, Steve opened the floor. Clara rolled forward on her scooter, voice booming. "Lydia, you fined me for a pink flamingo, called my gnomes aesthetic pollution. You're no victim, you bullied us." Applause erupted. Mr. Thompson, Mrs. Chun, and others unloaded years of grievances. Lydia's face melted into disbelief. She had no control. Tom stood, gesturing to me. "This man brought fish, but he brought back our spirit. We're tired of living under a rulebook thicker than a Bible. Walter didn't endanger us, freed us." The crowd roared. Steve stood, locking eyes with Lydia. The board voted. "You're removed as president, effective immediately." Silence, then cheers. Lydia blinked, mouth flapping like a fish ironic. She grabbed her clipboard and stormed out, the door slamming like a final nail in her coffin. After, neighbors gathered outside, planning a barbecue with unapproved burgers. Kids drew fish on the sidewalk. Clara hugged me so hard my back cracked. Tom grinned. "You're a legend." I shrugged. Took a few teeth. The stars shone, the pool glimmered, and Willow Grove felt like home again, not a prison, just home. The next morning, the neighborhood exhaled years of tension. No citations, no inspections. I stood barefoot in the dew, Daisy trailing me. The clubhouse bulletin board, once Lydia's rule wall, now advertised a movie night. A chalked flyer read, "Pool party, BYO fun." A photo of Lydia's visor splash moment was pinned up. Never forget. The video hit 2 million views, with remixes and a trap version of her scream. At the grocery store, a teen called me the fish guy. I said, "Local legend, kid." The pool reopened, piranha-free, alive with floats and 80s music. Tom wore his band flamingo trunks, now a rebellion symbol. I set my chair crooked just because I could. Neighbors thanked me quietly, their gratitude louder than words. That evening, Tom and I sat on the porch, sky orange and violet. "Think the peace will last?" he asked. "Long enough," I said. He chuckled. When you said piranhas, I thought you'd lost it. I had. I grinned. Just not how you thought. Daisy purred as stars emerged, the world slow and sweet. Then I found an envelope on my doormat, my name in sharp cursive. Inside, a note. Mr. Hayes, I hope you're pleased. You turned Willow Grove against me, but I formed a new HOA in Serenity Vale. Visor mandatory, no aquatic stunts. You haven't won. Sincerely, Lydia. I laughed, handing it to Tom. He read, chuckling. Serenity Vale sounds like a cult. With mandatory visors, I said. We laughed until it hurt. I slipped the letter into the mailbox, marked Return to Sender. Let Serenity Vale brace for her storm. Days on, Willow Grove hummed. Porch concerts, scavenger hunts, googly eyes on street signs, no fines. Clara brought a lemon meringue pie, apologizing for supporting Lydia. I thought that's how neighborhoods worked, she said. Not anymore, I replied. She smiled, unforced. I ate pie with Daisy purring, thinking how far we'd come from laminated threats to laughter, silence to music, fear to fish. I didn't just get my pool key back, I got my neighborhood, my mornings, my crooked chair. At 68, I proved you're never too old to make waves. As for Lydia, may the fish gods spare Serenity Vale. I won't.